Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody. It is December 20th. I'm Ryan Miller, and introducing our very own bathroom buddy, Matt Amber.
I did not see that coming,
No?
and I don't know why.
It happened so early in the movie that I thought maybe something else would be better, but...
Nope, the bathroom buddy.
At Book Club for Movies, where we watch a movie every single week. I said that like it was going to be a surprise. And then we talk about it, and you do the same, and you send us thoughts about it, and they're included in the show every single week without fail.
That's right. We've never missed them before.
Nope.
If you haven't heard them before, it's because they weren't there. So...
Very possible. This week it's Gremlins. In the second week of Decemberween, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean we don't need a synopsis, Matt.
It doesn't.
Of one of the most well-known movies of all time.
I've tried to make the synopsis as complexcated.
Fair enough. Words.
I've tried to make this synopsis as complexcated as possible. So here we go. Gremlins going to come out in an hour and 46 minutes. Written by...
Whoa. This isn't part of the synopsis. This is the thing you do before the synopsis.
Yeah, we'll get there. You got to give me time.
You're not even using the voice. Oh.
I got to build up to the synopsis.
Okay.
I like that you just dropped into a sadness bar. You're like, oh.
It's not sad. It's resignation because I don't agree. But I'm gonna stow myself here.
Thankfully,
you continue.
Thankfully, you have the power of the editing bay, so you do whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna edit any of this.
Yeah. All right, Gremlins coming at you in an hour and 46 minutes. Written by Chris Columbus, directed by Joe Dante, starring Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Corey Feldman, Dick Miller, and Polly Holiday as Ruby Deagle. Here's your Book Club for Movies synopsis for Gremlins. In the small, quiet community of Kingston Falls, Christmas is about to get a lot louder than it ever has before, while a young upstart in the banking industry inadvertently unleashes a horde of maniacal monsters into the center of town. All Billy had to do was follow the rules, keep his new pet out of the light, keep it out of the water, and never, under any circumstances, feed it after midnight. Instead, he gave Kingston Falls the gift that just keeps on giving. Gremlins.
Synopsis keeps on giving.
How do you come up with a quick synopsis without like an interesting synopsis without saying weird monster given as present makes other monsters, kills people?
Do you know what the synopsis for Gremlins is at this point in history, though?
I'm sure it's small town goes crazy.
No, it's Gremlins, and whoever it is automatically goes,
Gremlins.
The movie. Yeah, sure.
Starring Zach Galligan.
Yes, and they start going through in fact, you left somebody off your cast list, did you know?
I left a number of people from the cast list off.
That's true. Okay. Fair enough. You left a main character off of your cast list.
Judge Reinhold isn't that big of a deal.
Okay. You left two main characters that are huge deals off of your cast list.
Did I forget to mention Gizmo?
You did.
Guest starring.
You know who does Gizmo? I didn't know who did Gizmo until my wife looked it up while we were watching, which I did get her to watch this one with us.
Oh, really?
No idea. Howie Mandel.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense. He's doing Bobby's World, but...
Right, yeah.
Or he's doing the Howie Mandel voice that he does for...
Yeah,
yes,
that's
thank you.
it. Yeah.
So, yeah, that was
Howard,
a fun revelation.
Don't touch me, Mandel.
As was not much else, I guess. That's not true. There were revelations to be had during this movie, but I gotta say, I don't know if we do beat by beat because it's freaking Gremlins.
Yeah.
Number one, it's not that complicated. Number two, everybody knows. So I don't know. Would you?
No, I'm with you.
Okay. All right. There are still revelations to be had. In fact, I'm gonna go off a number of deep ends on this thing.
Terribly excited about it.
But for now, I think we can safely say that we've both heard of Gremlins. You have seen it more recently than I have. I think we talked about how it's been at least 20 years since I had seen it. And even though I don't necessarily want to go through beat by beat, I don't remember 90% of those beats.
That's really funny, man. Yeah. This has been a constant for me. This has been a movie that's been in my life for as long as it's been in my life. It's never really ever gone away. It's never been one that's been hey, I haven't watched that in a while. It's always been like I watched that not too long ago.
The holiday movie thing has been a recent addition for me, and it's probably actually been with the birth of my kids, actually, since I've been able to kind of rediscover some of those with them. Like, I never had a staple of movies that I watched every Halloween or every Christmas, but now I'm like, oh, it's Halloween, it's Christmas, it's time to show my kid this movie. And
sure,
Gremlins, absolutely one of those. And I did, like I said, get not only my wife to watch it, but my daughter was in on it too, and there will be some revelations from that angle as well.
That is, I think, the most exciting part of this show. This is the biggest thing for me. Is I can't wait to hear what the little lady thought about it.
Well, it's funny because my wife didn't want to watch it. Like, I had to start it without her knowing what it was. Otherwise, she would have kiboshed it. But it was weird listening to her. Actually, it wasn't weird. I had her pegged from the second she said she didn't want to watch it, because I'm enough of an 80s kid that I knew Gremlins was a scary movie, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the reason I didn't see it growing up, is because it was, I don't know if I heard anybody call it actual horror movie, but it was a scary one. And it got built up in my head as such.
Sure.
And I don't even remember the circumstances of when I first saw it. So I couldn't even give you, basically consider this being the first time. These are all new thoughts to me. How about that?
I love it.
So my wife is like, I hate that movie. And I'm like, well, why do you hate it? And she's like, I just always hated it when I was a kid. And I was like, okay, you have no idea what this thing is. Like, I know enough to know that it's not what I had built it up to be, especially before I showed it to my kid. I looked it up to see what was actually in it. And there's some language that was kind of iffy, but for the most part, no, it's totally safe for her. So I was like, okay, I think we're good. But it was interesting for me upon watching it to have that dialogue with myself and with my wife a little bit about why this movie does get built up so much in that way. And I don't know how widely held those beliefs are. Like, I don't know if a large majority of the world still sees Gremlins as a horror movie, or if it has kind of fallen into the more family fare type thing.
I think that at least from where I always have sat, Gremlins is still a horror movie. It's one of those movies that I put up there with like the Monster Squad, where I think it's a great kind of slow introduction to horror. You get something that is, and maybe you'll be able to tell me your thoughts on this, and because you'll have Evelyn there. It gives you something with a little bit of meat to it, where you get there's a little bit of danger. That there's a little bit of blood there, but it's not a ton. That like there's like one kind of kill in it, but then you get to see them kind of get beaten up by people, and the microwave bit and all that.
Right.
So
I mean, there's gore in this movie,
sure, but
it's gremlin gore,
right?
And it's green blood, type
right.
Thing.
And what I think Gremlins does in a really interesting way for younger viewers is it introduces tropes that will permeate horror.
Okay.
And I think that it does it in a way like I think a great example of it is actually the scene with the when the teacher now has the gremlin, and it does that great the cat and mouse with the teacher and with the monster that is coming.
Which is where the horror ostensibly kicks off in the movie. This is the halfway point of the movie. This is the first death we get. This is where the metamorphosis is complete, and we see the first repercussion of it.
So you get this build for and I think it's important for especially for younger horror viewers to understand and to kind of get a cushion and know that we have people that this isn't a movie that's going to pull the wool over your eyes. It's not going to yank a rug out from under you. That Billy wants to make Gizmo happy. He wants to keep Gizmo safe. He wants to keep everybody safe. He's a nice guy, and you've got that to fall back on. That none of this is intended. And that's an important thing for young horror viewers to understand, that scary things can happen, but they have somebody to fall back on. And the movie does such a good job of building. You get the build with him in such a great way, because you get the build where you immediately know how good of a person he is with bringing his dog to work, and then dealing with Mrs. Deagle and doing the best he can, and how hard he's working to keep his dog in check, and trying to make her happy too, and keeping it. He does a great job at that, and he's nice to the kid who's obviously at least 6 years younger than him, that he's still buddies with, and
right.
And so you get a relatable character that you know is pure of heart, that is going to be somebody that your daughter, your son can glom onto and go, he's going to help us. He's going to be there.
And Gizmo's no small part of that either.
Right.
Like the effects are dated, you know, although I will say I love both the variety and usage of them. Like you get some animation in here, you get some stop motion in here, you get some animatronics in here, you get some robots. And when I differentiate between those two, like there are robots that are built for specific scenes or that last, you know, like 2 seconds. Like no, not even that, like a 30-second clip. You know, they have the skateboarding gremlin or the Gizmo crawling across the floor gremlin. But Gizmo is, not surprisingly, also still a large part of the heart you're speaking of, regardless of whether or not the effects hold up. To me, anyways. Like it was easy for me to see that, man, he's cute as hell, and you still fall in love with him so quickly, even though it's checking off all the boxes almost.
No, absolutely. Gizmo is one of those. He is one of those in. He's Yoda. You know, if Yoda doesn't,
so many ways.
Part of the reason for me that Gizmo does work as well as he does is the people they put around Gizmo make Gizmo real. You know, you could say a whole hell of a lot of what you want to say about Corey Feldman as a person. This is a movie where he actually was he was great. He was really good with Gizmo. Like
I feel like you're confusing nowadays Corey Feldman with back then Corey Feldman. I feel like only good things were had of Corey Feldman when the Gremlins was made.
You know, I don't know anything about it. But you have to have people that sell that character that Gizmo is an important part of their lives, is now a part of their, and Zach Galligan and Corey Feldman do such a good job with that. You know, and Zach Galligan in particular, I mean, you're not going to, no, we're not talking he's going to walk away with an Oscar here. We're not talking, but the performance that needs to happen here, it really happens. And it gives Gizmo that little extra oomph to make him, not only is he a cute design, but you actually are like, okay, he believes Gizmo is real. I'm in. I'm invested at that point.
Yeah, it works. It still works like now.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
But it does still check off all the boxes that make it a great kind of nostalgic trip too. Like
totally.
Right away, we get Judge Reinhold, but the story was also conceived by Christopher Columbus. You know, Chris Columbus is in here. So
yeah,
I think sometimes, especially with Harry Potter, you forget how long he's been in the business.
It's funny when you go back and look through all the things that he was involved with, because so many of those movies do, like, they coalesce into other things. You know, he has Gremlins, but then he also had Adventures in Babysitting and Home Alone, and there's one other one that I always
there's so many other ones.
But I mean, yeah, he has that crazy career of writing from the mid 80s on, where he was, you know, in so many ways, him and John Hughes were the, like,
right, hand in hand,
exactly. And could you imagine John Hughes horror movie? Like, we all still want to see it.
This is probably the closest thing you're gonna get. Actually,
no, exactly.
Yeah. But it does check those boxes. And Corey Feldman is in it, like you said. And maybe my favorite box it checks is the movie starts in the most obviously dressed up Back to the Future set I have ever seen.
Right. It's so funny. You're like, hey, wait, isn't that Hill Valley?
Yeah. It not only in look, but it starts out with an inventor. You know, and there are actually some kind of sweeping shots of all these different inventions he does. And I love every time they focus on one of his inventions that explodes or something. I laugh every time. Still.
Every time.
But there's also, did you notice they signed a petition to save a landmark at the beginning too?
I don't think I did, actually.
Kind of another Back to the Futurism there. So it was interesting.
Sure.
So it's still a fun throwback as well. But then I did go off the deep end in a couple spots. And I don't know how soon you want to get to those.
Go to it. Let's do it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let's jump in.
So Gremlins, and to get there, I guess we do need to get into the story a little bit, is obviously about what you said in the synopsis, these kind of gremlins. There's no way to define gremlins without using gremlins. That's where we're at with gremlins here.
No, it's the correct colloquialism for a movie that created the word for the colloquialism.
Right. Yeah. I guess that's it. So Gremlins is like Gremlins in a way, And more than anything, I think this goes back to the anchor that you already gave us, both with Billy and Gizmo and all that stuff, because the Gremlins in a lot of ways are the foil to that. And I think this ties back also into why this is probably still a horror movie and why it still occupies a certain space in my mind and in my wife's mind. The things the Gremlins do, the bad Gremlins, actually, because is Gizmo a Gremlin?
Gizmo's a Mogwai.
Mogwai, that's right. I knew that was okay. Just want to get my taxonomy straight here.
You're right. Taxidermy.
Taxidermy. Oh, thanks. Yes. Speaking of which, I have now. In fact, I got to go to the store right after this. Don't let me forget. Been trying to buy a Gizmo now for my daughter for Christmas.
Ah.
I looked it up. It's stupid. Amazon has like 2 different kinds. The official one from Warner Brothers doesn't have the same markings as Gizmo. But then there's one from Nico Toys that does have the same markings. But it's got plastic feet and looks like it might not be as high quality. So
the Nico toys are always I don't know. I like them because they're usually closer to the. I usually go with them when I buy them when I bought them just because they were always closer to the movie thing. Like
all right, perfect. That's the only recommendation I needed. All right, to get back to the movie. I'm sorry. So what the Gremlins do though is very obviously made to be funny. The audience is meant to enjoy their acts of sometimes heinous criminality.
Sure, they're lizard-like debauchery.
Yes. In fact, if we could use the most highbrow terms to describe this movie only throughout the course of this, guys, I think I might have used all of mine already. So
yeah, I don't have any more.
Okay, dang it. All right, well, actually, that's not true. I got one more.
Okay.
One more I'll throw at you. It's so highbrow that it's almost just it's unfathomable. Okay, I've got 2 left.
Wow, there we go. Yeah.
But they are the things the Gremlins do, as bad as they are meant to be jokes, and the audience is meant to laugh at them, even if they are meant to see Billy as the good guy,
sure,
and the Gremlins as the thing to solve or whatever, or the antagonist, so to speak.
Yeah.
And for example, some of the things they do, I mean, they do kill that teacher, the one you already mentioned.
Right.
He's dead. They try to kill the mom, I think is the next scene, and that's just fantastic in that a housewife mom like goes to freaking town on those things like at the drop of a hat.
Oh yeah, she has no time for their nonsense.
No, she microwaves one of them. She stabs one of them. Repeatedly.
One of them goes in the blender.
Yeah, but that's right, blender, and yeah, just gremlin blood flying everywhere. And for reaction 1, again, how is my daughter handling this? Laughing her head off.
Perfect.
So yes, made the right decision. I don't know at this point, but at some point previously, I made the right decision in that she's taking this all the right way. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
This is again the daughter that has the Doom poster up in her room, and not the Doom Marine, but the other side of the poster that is the Hell Demon or
the Cyber Demon.
No, yes, just anyways. So yes, the Gremlins are doing these completely evil things while they are being murdered in these completely gory ways, but it's still meant to be entertaining to the audience. Like the audience is still meant to laugh at that. The audience is meant to have the reaction that my daughter is having and that I was having.
Well, and it's funny because one of the things that, and this is really weird because the part that made me think of this was like, oh, that's really messed up that's the connection that I made, is that in so many ways, the Gremlins they're like adult toddlers.
You are getting so close to my other fancy word for the day.
There's this, and I won't get to it because that's probably as far as I'm going with it.
No, keep going. Try to get overly pedantic. That's my only clue I'll give you.
I'm not a pedophile.
No. Okay. All right. Sorry. I had another one in the tank, it turns out. Yeah. Try to get overly pedophilic about it if you could. Again.
Now I understand. Wait. But they're like toddlers. They're like really infantile responses to everything. And the one that made me like go, oh yeah, is that it's the gun when the one shoots the other one. They're just like, you just bang. Oh, yep. That's what happens when I shoot you. Okay.
Another thing that they do. Yep. I feel like you're dancing around the bar scene too, where they. Yep. There's a flasher.
The flasher.
There's a. Towards the end of that scene, because Phoebe Cates is in the bar and they're kind of torturing her. They're not killing her. They're just torturing her.
They're torturing her, making her give them food and beer and...
Which she is doing. Like, they're just rowdy bar patrons, which, again, it'll make sense why in a second when I get to it. But then at the end, And this happens throughout. There are several examples. At the end, there is a gremlin in a ski mask that holds her up with a gun.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there are instances of them, yes, causing mischief and doing some stuff, but there's also instances of them being people, like purposefully taking on these affectations of, like, why didn't he just shoot her or threaten her with a gun? He had to put on a ski mask and he had to dress like a bandit, basically. Right?
Yeah.
They're doing this because they're all ids, right?
Right.
That's the pedantic term.
There
you're
you go.
for.
Perfect.
Yes. They are all doing exactly what anybody else would do if they didn't have, the Billy part of them somewhere.
Right.
The Gizmo part of them somewhere.
Sure.
And that also makes sense why they're not killing Phoebe Cates and why she's serving them. They're just rowdy bar patrons,
Right.
They think they're people.
They're so adorable.
Yeah.
That's perfect. No, they are, and that's it. That is the perfect encapsulation of what those characters are. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the even more cynical view, if that's cynical, that might
I don't
actually
think that's
be
cynical at all.
Is that this is Gremlins 2, maybe is what I should say. The more Gremlins 2 view is that they were making toys, that
sure,
were each dressed these different ways,
Oh, absolutely.
But I think it fits, and I think the movie supports it within its confines and things it's set up, both with the characters, the things we talked about, Billy as an anchor, and I'll just get to the last scene where this is an issue, where Billy, the whole thing comes to a head, where Billy is able to murder the most of them to get them out of town, is because they've all congregated. They are now the complete and exact sit-in for theater goers.
The audience. Yeah.
They're at the movies, right? Anytime a movie, and I don't care how basic the movie is, and it might be poorly done, but anytime a movie puts a movie in a movie, or puts you in a movie, it puts something in a theater, it's not on accident. It might be for a stupid reason or poorly executed. I don't think it was either.
Are you trying to tell me Donnie Darko was trying to say something?
Wow, we may have done the wrong Christmas movie
Ronald
this year.
Darkness. No, it's a good point though. I bow to your wisdom on this one.
Well, it's obvious. I mean, they're all played for jokes too. Like, one of my favorites, there are two of my favorites, and I'll give you the one that I think was most obviously a joke and played for laughs. Well, that's true. The argument could be made for either one of these, but one of them got the largest laugh from my daughter.
Oh yeah,
and me actually.
Okay.
I'll let you guess that second one. The first one that I think is obviously played for laughs and where I kind of took down this note when it happened was where they go into, and I'm sure you know the actor's name because I don't. He's been in a ton of things. But they go into the guy's house that has the snowplow.
Dick Smith.
Okay. I knew you would know it.
Dick Smith is one of the best parts of the movie. He's one of the best parts of the movie, and he's in the sequel as in the same character.
Oh, good. Excellent. Because we don't know if he's dead or not in this one.
No. He shows up in the sequel, and he shows up in the funniest way. So it's really funny because so many of the things that you're calling out here get reused in the sequel.
Okay,
but in
and I didn't watch I know I said I would, but I didn't watch it.
But in a completely different way. Like the sequel, they went from, we're not doing a horror movie like at all. We are totally taking this in the very far comedy realm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then that tracks with what I've understood.
It's still got the like these weird little horror aspects to it, but they're so much more minute. The second movie is definitely it's way more cynical. It's a way more cynical movie. I could
see people watching this first one and still being uneasy, even if they didn't know why they were uneasy. Like seeing the things happen to the Gremlins, even though they're puppets and the blood is green.
Sure.
And kind of like enjoying it, but kind of like grimacing at the same time. I could see that, for the second one, them being like, okay, people don't necessarily want a commentary that they don't know they're getting. What if we just have a fun ride this time?
No. I mean, so they definitely, there are things that are touched on and they touch on those things just in a very different way. Instead of the Gremlins in this movie being like just immediate id.
Right.
This one, the sequel actually touches on, it's actually kind of funny because it's a little meta. It touches on the idea of screwing with the formula where a bunch of the Gremlins become like they get merged with DNA. So one of them becomes it's like a salad gremlin basically.
No, yeah, I know that too. But
one of them becomes a bat. So it's that they screw with the formula completely to remix it and turn it into something different with the same characters and ideas.
Huh.
And it's like, it's funny because the first movie happened. It's real. It exists. Like it doesn't, two doesn't live in a vacuum from one or anything. The way that they have it move, though, is that you go from the small town of Kingston Falls now to New York City, and you literally are jumping to the future.
Oh, really? That I didn't know.
It takes place. The whole movie takes place in an automated office building that has a genetic laboratory, a food court. They've got like a gym.
Fantastic.
They've got a
Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
They have a full television studio.
We don't, and I mean, we will watch it eventually and probably talk about it eventually. We could even still do it next year. I don't really care, or next January even. But I guess I had just understood. Like I never thought of them actually switching up the formula or playing against the formula. I always thought it was more of in the sequel, they tend to double down on what audiences think they liked or said they liked the most. And audiences watching Gremlins 1 would be like, I liked the funny things about it and not, I liked the things that were secretly horror and I didn't really understand type
sure.
thing, you know? So,
and it definitely leans more towards that, but I think they do it again in a little more of a cynical way. Far more cynical than this movie. And because they did do it with a bent of, we're totally selling action figures with this.
Yes,
but I think
absolutely.
in doing so, that the way it was written and it comes off, I think it's actually a little smarter than just
Was
that.
Chris Columbus still involved?
I actually don't know if Columbus was involved in
that sounds like something he could pull off, honestly. Like he's in fact, that might be one of his greatest strengths, is taking something like that and being like, you know what? Still going to make it awesome for reasons that the people who are giving me money for this probably will never understand, but somebody somewhere is going to get, and me being an artist will not. And
yeah,
you looked that up.
He did.
The other moment, now that
he and Charlie Haas.
Oh, so wait, he was?
He wrote some of the characters. Yeah.
Oh, it's character credits. That just means they're probably pulling them from
Charlie Haas, though. Best known credit for him is the movie he didn't get credited for. He wrote a good chunk of Tron.
That makes some sense.
It's good stuff.
And we'll get to it when we watch that movie.
Yeah.
The second scene I wanted to mention, the one that got the biggest laugh from me and my daughter, now that we've spoken a bit about, and why I like how Dick, what was his name?
Dick Miller.
Oh, my last name. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Just forget that. I like how our talk about Dick Miller was what sent us off on that. But his scene in Gremlins 1 is where the Gremlins come and murder him with his own snowplow, or him and his wife, essentially. But the whole time, he was earlier on in the movie because he was having some issues with that snowplow or his old one, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Said that it was Gremlins, used the classic World War II or one term for it. This is where that term came from, actually, because I read a little bit of the Wikipedia as well.
Oh, look at you.
Gremlins were for explaining malfunctions and stuff like that. And yeah, so as they drive the snowplow into him and murder him, he's saying, there's actually gremlins in my snowplow. No amount, even though they are getting murdered for all intents and purposes, no amount of that isn't meant to make you smile. So that was obviously the joke. The other death, most likely, do you have any guess that made us laugh the most?
Oh, it's Mrs. Deagle. It's Deagle.
Hands down, Deagle. My daughter just out loud started laughing when she flew out the window
every time for two different reasons. Number one, the entire concept of that it's
beautiful.
It's just the perfect, because it's the most Looney Tunes thing you could do and yet make it work.
How has it not been done before, and how has it not been done in every movie since, right?
Right, exactly. More people need those things. I feel like that movie was the reason people stopped installing those in their houses.
Yeah, it probably was. That seems like the perfect urban legend that you hear from movies that came out in the 80s,
Yeah, that actually could happen.
What was it? That's the perfect version of...
The Pop Rocks and Coke.
Streetcar Called Desire.
A Streetcar Named Desire.
Wife beater shirt skyrocketed or something like that.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, I had to pull
the
least understood and least known example out of thin air. Welcome to Book Club for Movies.
Yeah.
Please continue.
No, it had to be the Deagle one. So the other reason is you are given, in so many ways, even more so than the Gremlins themselves, you root for the Gremlins against her because she comes off immediately as the actual human villain You don't like her because she's Cruella de Vil.
She is the actual villain in this movie.
Yeah, and I mean the best part about her being the actual villain is that she only had to be in the movie for 5 minutes. She's really only in like 2 scenes. 3 scenes, I guess.
And what would you do given your given your druthers?
given my druthers?
You would get rid of that girl, right?
Oh, like you'd send her flying off of her thing.
Yeah, so the Gremlins kill the actual villain in the movie. That's if you needed any more proof that they are you.
And it was so funny. It's such a funny moment. Great.
The only other thing I want to mention, and it actually has to do with what we talked about with Krampus last week. Mm-hmm. I'll very briefly mention how we spoke about last week. The difference between, for me anyways, what made Krampus a good movie and not a great movie was that they failed to kind of interweave the family dynamic into the fabric of the entire film. Mm-hmm. That all got kind of wrapped up halfway through, and then we got Krampus Town, which was still fun and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Gremlins actually makes a stab at doing it, and granted, it does it in 2, maybe 3 incredibly broad strokes, but it tries, and I think it works, actually. And it's with the romance between Billy and Phoebe Cates' character.
Kate, I think.
Kate, is it really Kate?
I think so.
Wow, they're making it easy on me now. It's not going to help. I'm telling you, don't even try. In that, very early on, you obviously, they got kind of crushes on each other. But she hates Christmas because her dad died.
By the way, my favorite part of the movie is that story.
Well, it might be comedic, but I think it's less comedic than it is. I mean, it would be black comedy if it was anything, obviously.
Which I think it is. I purely think that's
You think so?
Absolutely.
I don't know, man. I kind of got like some real feels there.
Oh, no, I think that's absolutely meant to. It's clearly a thing, and it's not. She's not. But that's totally like that is the darkest stab that Columbus is going to make it at getting a giggle, and oh my, he elicits a laugh from me every time.
Okay,
like that story cracks me up. I was actually going to mention it that was one of my, if not my favorite part of the movie, is that.
Well, on paper, it's freaking hilarious. Yeah, I mean, and the 3 broad strokes are this. One of them is them walking down the street. She mentions how she hates Christmas, and she doesn't really get into why. Second broad stroke comes middle, or it might even be the second act break, which would make it the beginning of the third act or whatever. So it would be, 2/3 of the way through the movie. But then she shares the story why she hates Christmas. And it's because her dad, playing Santa Claus, came down the chimney and burned to death. Was that it?
He got stuck.
Again, got stuck and then burned.
He got stuck.
Like on paper, there's no way for us to say it that's going to give you any of the feels that I kind of got by watching her when she talked about it. But, and again, it's in 3 broad strokes, and maybe it's just the placement, but it takes a stab. And the third stroke, if you want to give it that, is when they finally kiss at the end,
Sure.
Because she has kind of gotten over not liking Christmas, maybe, ostensibly, for, I don't know, because she murdered a bunch of gremlins in a movie theater.
You get your anger out.
Hey, there might be a catharsis at play here.
Sure.
Man, I've got too many in the tank, it seems.
I know. This movie was supposed to be nothing, and now it's everything.
Again, I was surprised. These like many times at what I was saying, what I was writing down, and I thought, hey, you know what? I don't care. So that's my...
That's good.
This is my id coming out. My id comes out, and I talk about psychology. Because I don't care what you think.
Put it back.
Now I'm kind of making myself sick, though.
Yeah, put it back.
But yeah, this I think it works. I think for the 3 broad strokes that it is, it kind of does a better job than Krampus in that way. In a weird way. There might be kind of at the same level in different ways.
I admit, I think Gremlins is just a better movie.
Oh yeah, that too. Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
And I think because of that, I think that even if it doesn't maybe hit as well as you want it to, it's a little more forgivable.
Sure.
Whereas Krampus I love Krampus. I think Krampus is a great movie. It's super fun. Like I said, it's a yearly watch for me and has been for a couple years now. But it's a yearly watch for me in a different way. Like Gremlins is
a classic.
It is. And maybe Krampus will end up being one for me, but
yeah, I think it's too self-aware, actually.
And that might be it. I think it's something I really enjoy because it's a really fun take on that story, and I really like that movie. But if you're ever going to say you can only pick one, well, it's going to be Gremlins every time.
Yeah.
It's not
and it's apples and oranges. It's 80s apples against 2010s oranges, Like nobody set out making Gremlins to be like, I'm going to make one of the all-time classic Christmas movies. Maybe he didn't even know if it would be considered that at some point. I mean,
right.
I don't know. Chris Columbus, maybe somebody knew somewhere, I bet, at that point. But
I feel like that guy in Holidays is just out of
true.
the park, man.
Actually, that's true. He is the Shane Black of families, maybe.
Didn't he write Planes, Trains, and Automobiles also?
Possibly. Like I said, there's more out there that I'm sure we're not thinking about. We could do a Chris Columbus series.
That would actually be really fun.
We will probably unintentionally end up doing such a thing.
It could be really
at some
fun.
Point.
I like his movies. We can watch Curly Sue.
But yeah, in comparison to Krampus, it's that was made to kind of be what it is and knows what it is and has a place. But you can't look back on that at some point and be like, oh, this ended up being good, because it knows exactly what it was trying to be, and I think it succeeds. But at no point does it, I think, gain more. Like Gremlins gained more over time.
Sure.
Like with what it did, and with, I guess it's a hard thing to say looking back historically speaking. So, hey, we could be proven wrong. This is Book Club for Movies.
But we're not going to be.
But if you don't have any more on Gremlins, my good sir.
No, I love Gremlins. I'm a fan. Gremlins.
Times two. Yeah. I will say, I had more on Gremlins. Look at that. I will say that moment where she does spill her guts about what happened to her dad is followed by a quiet walk down the street, because they have now all gathered in the movie theater. That was kind of a fantastic moment too. It was really cool, and the way it was directed, and the camera comes out, and it's just a nice reprieve, and it's very well placed. So,
and I like the look of the town too, as it's kind of burning and everything, and they're like that whole bit. Yeah,
it's Hill Valley. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's great. It's great. I like and again, the movie that was the movie right there where the crush began. It never ended. Never went away. Phoebe Cates. Yeah.
For Dick Miller.
For Hoyt Axton, actually. Randall Peltzer.
Who? Now you're just reading IMDb.
I'm not.
This is where we fell in love with everybody. This is where we learned to love again, much like Phoebe Cates.
That's true.
In Gremlins. 5,000 stars.
Well, that's
minimum.
Wow. Congratulations, Gremlins. 5,000 stars out of 5,002.
Man, we choose good movies. We've got a good track record.
It's very strong.
It's amazing. Next week, we're going to choose another good movie. It's called Christmas. So
it's not the movie, it's the time of the year. So enjoy that if you celebrate that.
It's true. Is there a movie called Christmas?
Probably.
I chose. Okay, it can't be great. I feel like I would have heard about it at this point. There might be a show, and we talked about this on Tuesday. If you listen to that show, we're going to do 2 favorite 5 shows. One of them is going to be our favorite 5 video games that we played this year. One of them is going to be our favorite 5 movies that we watched just from the shows we've done this year. So 40-ish, whatever that is. Those might come out next week, depending on when we record them. Either way, we're taking next week off. So if they don't come out next week, it's because we recorded them later and I'm putting them out the week after. So in any event,
they're coming.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Next week, not this week.
Yeah. Just look. We've already given you this information, so if you have information you want to share with us what you think about Gremlins, you know how to get a hold of us on Twitter, podcast@bookclubformovies.com. But for right now, let's just do the rest of the show, and then you can go have Christmas.
Okay. So before you have a Merry Christmas,
okay,
let's talk about the Christmas Chronicles.
Oh, hit me with that. I was unable to watch that one this week. I want to catch it, but all right.
You should catch it, and I want to hear what you have to say on it because number one, it's a Kurt Russell movie.
Kurt Russell, yeah.
But I don't think we're missing out on a great back and forth here.
Okay.
It's in a lot of ways a safe, easy movie full of safe, easy jokes and some competent performances and Kurt Russell. So
right.
Obviously it's very endearing and contains an amount of earnestness that makes the whole thing work.
All right. Fair enough.
It's a very simple story and about a family who loses their father and has a brother and a sister that then don't get along and a mother that has to go work. So the mother makes a very specific wish. Actually, there are some parts of this that I'm not going to talk about until you've seen it. But the mother makes a specific wish and the kids run into Santa Claus and the whole night is them helping Santa Claus save Christmas because he loses his hat and his reindeer. But maybe there's more going on that meets the eye. I don't know. It depends. In any event, it's a little disconnected. Like, it doesn't really come together. I feel like we've had this conversation a lot, actually. It doesn't come together in that way. We've talked about Shaun of the Dead being the perfect example of Krampus doing it wrong, and now Gremlins doing it in 3 broad strokes. It does not come together in that way in any respect. It's very disjointed. These set pieces are fun still. There's just a fantastic Kurt Russell dad moment in there. There's a musical number, if you've seen the trailer.
Yeah.
It is some prime dad nerdiness is how I have it down in my notes. So it's not played for that in the movie, but it's hard to ignore.
All right.
But it's worth watching. It comes out in no small part because of the girl's performance, the little girl. Mm-hmm. She does a great job. She's a good actress. I haven't seen her in anything else, so I don't know what to point you at, but
all right.
I could at least look up her name and tell it to you.
How could you do that?
I'll tell you how. Unnaturally fast, given the power of editing. Her name is Darby Camp, and she has apparently been in a Benji movie, Grey's Anatomy, and Big Little Lies. So, I don't know. Seasoned, as it were, but brings it all to the table here.
Nice.
And makes the movie in a lot of ways. Definitely watch it. Curious to what you think. There's the last thing I'll mention, maybe my favorite part even.
Save the best for last.
Is that Santa's bag of toys is actually a portal, because she goes into the bag at one point. It's actually a portal back to his workshop at the North Pole.
Sure, that makes sense.
That is some grade A Christmas sci-fi right there.
Yeah, no, I'm into it.
It's the best explanation. None of this like his bag can fit infinite amount of presents, which I think is what the Santa Claus does. It's just that it's an actual portal. Yeah, so the elves keep loading it. I'm telling you,
there's just somebody that just hands presents to hand Santa.
I didn't see a lot of present handing. Okay, there's still some spatiality to it that I can't explain.
Yeah, so you're making specious statements here about whether or not this is a fact. See, I don't like where you're going with this now.
Okay, watch the movie.
Get a hold of
Christmas
the writer
Chronicles.
and find out what the intentions are.
I also watched Jumper. The other Christmas movie.
Sure. Hayden Christensen.
There you go. I want to talk about this for more than a minute. I promise.
I don't remember who else is in that. Was Sam Jackson in that?
Sam Jackson is in it. He's the main bad guy. Rachel Bilson is the love interest. When I first saw this movie, I remember thinking, I don't see what everybody's talking about. In that, everybody was talking about how bad it was.
Oh, so now you've come around to that.
Surprisingly enough, no.
Really?
Like, I see the bad. The performances are bad, which affects the chemistry, which affects the this and the that. I think the premise and most of the execution of that premise, not of the, relationships and stuff like that, is good. I like their superpower. Yeah. I like how it's portrayed in the movie. I like how it's directed, which isn't,
Doug Liman?
Yeah, it's Lyman. Yeah, exactly. That's probably no surprise. The dude knows what he's doing. I think he directed the Firstborn Identity, but not the other ones for some reason. He did the Tasteful Shaky in the first one, and then the rest was just like, yeah, but you still like it.
I'm Matt Damon.
It's actually that's why it's so shaky. Matt Damon is holding the camera at the same time
while he's fighting. Yeah, he's like tossing into the air so he can do a move and catches it. And
no, but yeah, not even joking. Even the story overall, I do not have a problem with. I think it's done well, and I think it takes some. It does appear to take some turns where you're like, okay, was that a compromise? Like, was that an edit later on in the life of that script, or was it a left turn that you didn't see coming? There is some of that, and again, I'm probably overanalyzing here. I'm probably overanalyzing the movie Jumper.
You might be, but who could tell?
I still enjoy that movie. I guess is the weird thing.
I like Prayer of the Roller Boys. Who's going to judge?
Do you remember how that movie ends?
I feel like there's something to do with Egypt.
He does go somewhere, but no, there's snow. And yes, there's a lot of Egypt. But no, he goes because at some point he finds out his mom, Diane Lane, is a paladin, which is what they call the Sam Jackson and the group of bad guys or whatever.
Right, sure.
Because they have a name. Even though I guess Jamie Bell eventually gives them a name as well, that they're jumpers. Anyways, it ends with him going back to confront his mom, and opening the door, to which Kristen Stewart answers, very possibly his sister, only time she was in that movie. And then she sees his mom and is like, "You're a paladin, are you?" And she's like, "Yes." She's like, "What do we do?" And she's like, "I give you a head start." And then that's it.
Yeah, they were definitely trying for something else there, and you know what happened with that movie?
Do you know what happened with that movie?
I know Hayden Christensen has never been a box market bingo.
You know what? You're right. And no correction needed. They have done, I think it's YouTube Red did a web series or a TV series on it. It's called Impulse.
Does it have Hayden Christensen?
It does not.
Well, what's the point?
Which is kind of strange.
Yeah, what's he doing?
They couldn't get him?
Yeah.
Or wait, he's not that great of an actor. Oh, I think I just figured it out.
That might have been it.
Like the guy, no problem. You will hear back from me on that.
Oh, you're
show.
gonna dig into that, huh?
It's ready to go.
Can't wait. And what are we gonna do? Cobra Kai and Karate Kid?
Hey, I did get that at the same time. How did you know?
I've already watched it.
Oh, you've already watched Cobra Kai?
Yeah.
Worth it? I've heard it's not fantastic, but it's good for what it is, and you should watch it. This is what I've heard.
So yes, I would say watch it.
All right. Okay. This is coming on the heels of, hey, I haven't shown my kid The Karate Kid yet, so we're gonna start with that and end way sooner than the movies did, and then probably watch that Cobra Kai thing. Not with my daughter, but.
I mean, more than anything, I think the Cobra Kai thing. I think that's for like Karate Kid. Your daughter might like. The kids might like. They probably will. I don't know that Cobra Kai is something that they're gonna like because it is definitely meant for us, not for them.
Yes, from what I read, that's why I wasn't going to show it to him. But
it's fine. It's got some moments to it, but it I think I don't. We'll talk about it when you watch it.
Okay, all right, okay, cool. Hey, what did you have? I've already spoken too long about all of this.
I got 2 movies. I'll do them pretty quickly. One of them, just classic comedy. Was feeling frisky. We wanted to laugh, so we put on. UHF comes in an hour 37 minutes. Written by Weird Al Yankovic and Jay Levy, directed by Jay Levy, starring Weird Al Yankovic, Victoria Jackson, David Bowie, and Michael Richards. That movie's funny, man. That movie,
best. It
is still the funniest. I don't know how that movie did not make $1 bajillion. People are stupid.
Yeah,
People are dumb.
Speaking of movies that have only been added to since their construction.
Oh my! And it's still so funny. It is so freaking funny. Al Yankovic, that guy is just so pure. He's such a just pure genius. And that movie, there is nothing in that movie that isn't like you're laughing in that movie about every 8 seconds. It seems like. Yep. And
if you're not, get yourself checked out.
Yeah, go to the doctor. Maybe you've got.
Lots of doctors.
Maybe you chose a box with nothing in it because you're so stupid.
That's nice. Thank you.
My the best part in that movie, by the way, is when that character and the rest of the Wheel of Fish martial artists are in the supplies closet.
Yes.
And they open the door and they go, "Supplies!" and they jump out.
Which seems to be the scene that people forget the most, because that's the line I use the most. Like when I'm referencing that movie, I'll just be like, "Supplies!" and nobody ever remembers what I'm talking about.
It's also Beth's favorite thing in that movie. She just dies every time.
So good.
UHF.
You reminded me about it earlier, and I forgot again that I need to show. That's one I haven't shown my kid either. Which slam freaking dunk! Like, what am I doing over here?
I forgot. There were a number of things I did forget about. I totally forgot the Rambo sequence where the guy is shooting directly at Yankovic, and Al just starts walking towards him and gets closer and closer, and the guy's still shooting at just point blank with an arrow that blows the guy up.
It's so good, man.
It's so funny. I love it. And
just the commentary it makes on how the protagonist is always bulletproof. And
I also like one of my favorite lines in that movie is R.J. Fletcher. they're trying to catch him in the in the act of saying something awful so that they can buy the station and keep the UHF station on the air.
That's the main boss guy, right?
Yeah, he's the main bad guy.
Played by the guy you'll recognize from everything else.
And they ask him something like, Victoria Jackson says, "Don't you care about what this community thinks about you or something?" And he goes, "I don't give a festering bowl of dog snot." Just a terrific line.
Great character, great line, great everything. Yeah, that'll come up again soon.
Yeah, UHF, by the way, is streaming on Amazon right now. So if you've got
really?
Amazon Prime,
well, that'll come up much sooner than I even thought. Then.
Yeah, it's right there. It's what. And then we wanted to watch this one for a while. We jumped back at Christmas. We went back a year. We checked out The Greatest Showman, hour and 45 minutes. Written by Jenny Bix and Bill Condon, directed by Michael Gracie, starring Hugh Jackman, Michelle Williams, Zac Efron, and Zendaya. That was a great freaking musical, man. I
liked it. Did you?
I'm a sucker for musicals. I do love me a good musical. You find it hard to tear me away from certain ones. Others you will easily find me torn away from.
We can tear you away. Okay.
Yeah, no, Chicago.
Sound of Music.
Can't stand Chicago. Sound of Music I like.
Chicago. Wow. Like we're on the same page as Chicago then.
I cannot stand that movie. I don't like any of the people in it. I don't like the music to it.
An American in Paris.
No, I'm not a huge fan of that one either, personally.
It goes long.
It's a little bit. It just takes forever. And I'll tell you, the other one that this one drives people nuts, cannot for the life of me stand Moulin Rouge. That's a terrible movie.
Whoa, we are like 3 for 3 over here or something.
Boz Luhrmann and I do not get along in so many ways.
I don't have anything against Boz Luhrmann, but Moulin Rouge, like
I don't like his style. I don't like what he puts together, and that movie is just a total like compilation of everything I dislike about his
It is
work.
A pretty good distillation of everything that's wrong with him.
Yeah. But The Greatest Showman, man, I loved it. And let's get out ahead of this. Yeah, this is an obscenely sanitized version of P.T. Barnum's life.
Oh boy, yeah.
But like the most sanitized thing you could come up with.
Yeah, like oh boy in the truest Samuel Beckett sense of the term. Like
yes.
quantum leap into that thing, and you're just like, oh boy.
But you know what? That story that they decide to put together, that's a good story.
Yep.
The music is fantastic. I love Hugh Jackman in those roles. I love seeing that guy who so many people just they could only see him as the meathead. I love that he can do this part like it's nothing. Like it's second nature to him. He
started by doing that part, right? Yeah.
Because he was doing Oklahoma and all sorts of others. And I love it. I love seeing that. And
he's such a good guy about it.
He is. You just gotta like Hugh Jackman.
You know, me and my wife have one rule in our house. She doesn't tell me how much she thinks about Hugh Jackman, and I don't tell her how much I think about Hugh Jackman.
That's a very good rule.
It's the only rule in our household.
No, it's a fair one. Yeah. That's a great movie, though. Zac Efron, too, by the way.
Not bad, huh?
Guy has always had actually a really like he's a strong actor. The guy is I mean physically he's ripped.
Yeah, I mean since the ripping actually I have more of an issue with him. Like he's done some weird.
I think
the Baywatch was it the.
Okay, Baywatch wasn't a good movie though.
It wasn't a good movie. It wasn't a good trailer. It wasn't a good anything.
No, there's
everything about that. I'm like, I'm offended.
Sure.
And I don't know what part of me is getting offended.
All of it. I like him though. I think he's fine. I'm excited to see him as Ted Bundy.
What?
Yeah. There's a movie. It's coming out next year. If it hasn't come out already, I don't think it came out already.
You are kidding me.
I have never joked about anything with you in my life.
You know what it is? It's probably American Psycho is what it is. I'm having flashes of American Psycho because that's exactly what happened with Christian Bale. He was in nowhere near the same spot. I think Christian Bale made a lot more better choices. But yeah, if you think about the kid from Newsies playing the kid from American Psycho. I'm thinking about High School Musical playing Ted Bundy, and I am just...
Yeah.
I think I'm with you on this one.
No, and here's the crazy thing is, so the movie is called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. And the photos of him that have come out, that they put out, he looks just like Ted Bundy. He looks like Ted Bundy. And so the movie is, it's being told from the perspective of one of the victims that got away, I think.
You would hope.
Well, yes.
I mean, that's my one reservation here is, okay, there's a huge red flag that this thing gets mishandled.
Oh, it's from the perspective of his girlfriend. That's what it is. He had a longtime girlfriend.
Okay, that could be interesting also, but yeah, who's making it?
Let's see, written by Michael Wee and directed by Joe Berlinger.
Okay, that doesn't help. I'll have to look that up.
It's got John Malkovich in it, though.
Oh, so the actual serial killer.
So it's probably okay.
So you like The Greatest Showman? I'm
did.
Glad.
I liked it. That was a really, really fun movie. It was a beautiful movie too. Like the look of that film, absolutely terrific.
Yeah, it's got great cinematography. I think the interesting trick it pulls is that it's filmed almost more TV movie-ish. Like there's a lot of close-ups in that thing. There's a lot of it's been a while since I've seen it now, but yeah, no, this one managed to stay good looking.
Yeah, I liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. It was fun songs, really fun choreography. The story, it moved at a pretty good clip too. Like there wasn't a lot of dip to that either. And
no, not a lot of fat.
I love the story, the way that it weaved the story with him and Michelle Williams, and then the people in the circus, and then Zac Efron's character, and how that all kind of weaved together into this. Like it's a really nice little tapestry of a movie. And
I'm a sucker for the circus folk story, like the underdog and the disenfranchised.
Have you ever seen Todd Browning's Freaks?
No.
You should check that one out. It's from 1930. I want to say 32. One of the credited in a lot of ways as a one of the first real horror films put on camera.
Oh, but I know what you're talking about.
But it's not really a horror film.
I'm going to say this came up in film school. Actually,
it might.
Wow, I know what you're talking about.
Probably did.
Well,
5 out of 5 on Greatest Showman. Good job,
okay,
Jackman.
We don't do stars for those. Don't do that. Take it back.
Okay, no stars. Sorry, Chewie Hackman.
It's pronounced Zendaya. At Book Club for Movies. And if you got something to say about any of those, get back to us, podcast at bookclubformovies.com and or Gmail. No, wait, there's no Gmail of that, but whatever. Use your Gmail to send to that, the website, and the Facebook, Twitter.
No, but you're very accurate.
Merry Christmas. That's what I'm trying to say.
Happy Hanukkah.
To all.
Yeah.
And remember, no show next week, possibly. So, actually, you can forget it. I don't care. It's whatever. Look up for movies.